we have some sound bites that you need to listen to. We'll be right back.
And today, he wants a debate on the economy. Now I want to challenge him to come to Sangba and debate with the people of Sangba on the economy. He should tell them. He should tell the people of Sangba what he has done for them in the last 8 years. And he should go and debate with businesses that have collapsed because of doomsday. He should go and debate with farmers who cannot buy fertilizer because of his policies. He should go and debate with businessmen who cannot access loans because of high interest rates. He should go and debate with contractors who are not paid because his government is not paying. He should go and debate with teacher trainees who are not paid allowances because his government has refused to pay allowances. He should go and debate with nursing trainees who are not paid allowances because his government has refused to pay allowances. He should go and debate with the unemployed, our youth who are looking for jobs because
I am looking forward to a debate with John Mahama on the economy, on the country, on the governance. But I'm afraid that he's running away from a debate, isn't it? His people say he doesn't want to debate, but he doesn't want to debate because he knows I'll expose the emptiness of his policies. He says he has a 24-hour economy that he cannot explain. It's as empty as an empty barrel. He cannot explain it. None of his people can explain it. They say they will be exporting lions and elephants. But when we meet mano a mano, we can debate, and the country will see where our policies lie. And that is where we should go. We should give the country an opportunity to listen to us. But if he chooses not to debate, I will continue to sell my policies to the people of Ghana, and you will take the...
President Mahama, since last year, began engaging stakeholders about his forward move, his big push agenda, his vision for this country. You remember the Building Ghana tour. That tour saw him crisscross the country, constituency by constituency, region to region, meeting all sections of our society. Recently, he's been meeting selected interest groups, engaging them on his visions and what the NDC will do for this country come 2025. You're also aware that recently he met the journalists to explain semantically what he will be doing and what are some of the variable issues that he will be dealing with. Is that not a manifesto in its own way? So is that not an explanation of the vision?
Is that to say that the NDC is not ready to engage
No, that is not to say. We don't have time to waste. Bawumia is nowhere compared, nowhere having a footing on a competitive national debate. He's in deficit of responsibility. Don't forget that this is the same man that was painted as an economic wizard. This was the same man who was touted a man of digitalization. This is the same man who said he was going to turn the economy around. Has the economy been turned around? Let's ask Dr. Bawumia those questions.
So there you have it, the Vice President, flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, saying the former president is empty as an empty barrel, and that he is inviting him for a debate. So there are accusations and counter-accusations between the two parties. But what do our guests make of these developments? And is the Vice President as full, since others are empty, as full as maybe he believes himself to be? Well, Dr. Arthur Kennedy is a member of the MPP. He's an outspoken member of the MPP. And he joins us from far, far away. I like doing that. Doc, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank to your viewers.
Let me also add that we have Dr. John Osai Kwapong. He's a CDD fellow. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin.
I'll start with you, Dr. Arthur Kennedy. In recent times, I was at the Kempinski Hotel when the former president met the press, and he shared his thoughts on a number of things affecting our national life. Then we heard current Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia on the election platform saying, there have been calls for us to debate and all of that. I'm inviting the former president to join me for a debate on the economy and everything in between. Then he goes on to say, the former president is as empty as an empty barrel. I want your initial thoughts on this wrangling between both parties and maybe what the essence of a debate would be between them. Is there that need? Dr. Arthur Kennedy, starting with you.
Yes, there is historically, most of the time, a debate about debates. And it is always said that the person who calls for the debate thinks he needs it more. So looking at the US historically, for example, there have been debates since 1960, not regularly, and in Ghana, there have been debates since 2008, and I played a small part in arranging the 2008 debates. I think that from these initial exchanges, it would appear as if the MPP presidential candidate thinks that he needs a debate more, and the NDC candidate or team do not think they need a debate as much. But these are initial shadow boxing. As a Ghanaian patriot, though, I think in general, debates are good for campaigns. They clarify, but I noticed that Dr. Bawumia called for a comparison of policies. I think that there, of course, should also be a comparison of records. And not only that, I also think that it should not be just the two major candidates. There might be other candidates who, in the public interest, should be included in the debate.
I see. Now, does that make you think then, since he is calling for it, and you said that historically, per your analysis, the person who calls for the debate thinks he needs it more. Does that mean, from where you sit, you think Dr. Bawumia feels he's in a weaker position and so he needs the debate more?
Yes, I do. I think so, that polling during this election season has shown that the NDC candidate, Mr. Mahama, is in the lead. There is debate about how much of a lead he has. And I think that these exchanges on the debate confirms the fact that even within the campaigns, that is their view. And if you compare it to other places, for example, in the US, in 1976, Gerald Ford agreed to debate his challenger because he thought he was behind. In 1980, Jimmy Carter agreed to debate Reagan because he thought he was behind. And even in Ghana, in 2008, the NDC people wanted the debate more. And actually, a lot of the public don't know it, but Nana Akufo-Addo was reluctant to debate because, as he put it to me, all of them, opposition parties, will gang up against me. So in general, the people who call for debates tend to need it more.
All right. Let's go to Dr. John Osai Kwapong on that same self-same point. Your take.
So, I share the sentiments expressed by Dr. Arthur Kennedy. If you go back to our first presidential debate, in 2000, you do see that inconsistent participation on the part of our two main political parties. So in 2000, NDC was absent. 2004, MPP was absent. 2008, 2012, both parties were present. And so I thought that sort of represented a turning of the corner, because these things are our conventions, are part of the rituals of, of elections. And so I was hoping that by then we would have established this as one of our conventions. But come 2016, you see that split again. 2020, no debate. And then now you have the 2024 and the call by the vice president saying, I would debate, former President John Mahama. As Dr. Arthur Kennedy said, the person calling for the debate in their calculus feels like they needed more. And so they need to push for it. And so
is that
you
a
would
point,
see
is
that.
that a point you agree with, though? So do you feel that the vice president feels he's in a weaker position and that's why he's calling for this?
I don't know if he's viewing it as coming from a position of weakness, but in my mind, my suspicion is that he feels he has more to gain from a debate with former President John Mahama, and therefore the reason why he's pushing for it so strongly.
Would that also mean that then former President Mahama's refusal to debate, can it be seen as a tactical move to avoid whatever it is that, whatever end game that the vice president has? Can it be seen as a tactical move to refuse this debate?
I believe so. I mean, all candidates with these debates come with gains, but also come with potential risk. You don't know what you may say in a given moment, what your body language may communicate, what your facial expression may communicate, your inability to articulate an answer to a particular question, right? And then if you think, look, I have nothing to gain, that I have other ways of reaching the Ghanaian voter outside of engaging in a presidential debate, then I'm good. And so why risk it if there's nothing to gain? I would rather not stand to lose something from participation. So I'm sure these are all the things that are going into the calculus of should I participate or should I not participate in a presidential debate.
What about when it comes to public perception? Do you think that this would help us, the voting population, to compare and contrast both parties and what they're proposing to us? And if so, should we then be the ones to call for it?
I mean, yes, I'm sure there are a group of voters who've already made up their mind in terms of which of the candidates they are going to vote for. But even those who have already made up their minds, I'm sure would appreciate seeing these two candidates side by side debating on the key matters that would help move the development needle of the country forward and say, yeah, this is the reason why I'm choosing candidate A or candidate B. There are also voters, I'm sure, who are still making up their minds. If you look at some of the most recent polls, there's still a sizable percentage who are saying they are undecided. Some of these things can help us, sway them in one direction or another. So again, the call for it by the Ghanaian public, I think would also hopefully help persuade the candidates to give this some serious consideration and end up participating.
But Ben, before we go to our other guests, we don't have a manifesto yet from both parties. So is this coming too early or too late? Or what do you think?
I don't know. It could. I mean, some comments from the debates could even shape, in the end, what goes into these manifestos. But by now, I would be surprised if the parties didn't know exactly what. I mean, look at the NDC, for example. Definitely some things you see, a 24-hour economy and other things in there. In the MPP, definitely digitization leading to digitalization and what it can do in terms of the mechanics of it. So I think some of the matters are clear. But on education, for example, like I said at Kempinski the other day, the former president spoke about what his plan for education is. We need to see the fine-tuning. We need to see, for example, I posed a question to him about the Tema oil refinery.
Yeah.
The nitty-gritty, the fine details of how it will be done. And I would be interested in seeing them reflect on some of these points, and especially for the vice president when it comes to the economy and some matters arising, because I'm not utterly convinced about some of the utterances I've heard on these matters.
Okay, we can go to Dr. Arthur Kennedy now then. Doc, would you say that the debates that we've had in history I mean, I can talk about the 2008 debate that it was declared that Mahama was the winner for that debate. Do you think that it's in no small way influenced the turnout of the elections? And is that something to look at? Whether the result of these debates going forward can influence voter turnout or the choices of the voting population?
Yeah, I can. But by the way, in 2008, Mr. Mahama was not in the debates. It was between Nana Akufo-Addo and
John Evans
Atta Mills. Yeah.
Having said that, debates in general bend to take some respectful disagreement are not about the nitty-gritty. Sometimes they are about the view. For example, in 1960, most Americans who listened to the debate thought that Mr. Nixon won. Most of those who watched the TV, which was a more bigger audience, thought that John Kennedy had won because he looked younger and more relaxed. So sometimes it's about the visuals. And for example, if you remember in 2008, Mr. Indium dressed very well in bright colors. His delivery was sharp, and as the statesman put it, what did they call free press, transcendental Indium connects. In the same way, when you go to 1976 in the US, the thing that most people remembered was President Ford appearing to say that the people of Eastern Europe were free, when most Americans didn't think so. And I think one of my two favorite debate moments was 1980, when Reagan summed up by saying, therefore, my fellow Americans, the question is, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And that settled the election. So these are about moments rather than detail. And most French people remember 1988, when Chirac looked into Mitterrand's eyes and said, on this issue, looking into my eyes, tell me what I'm saying is not true. And Mitterrand said it's not true. And it turned out that according to Chirac, the camera didn't pan to Mitterrand, but Mitterrand didn't look him in the eye. So these debates are most of the time about moments. And having said that, I think that they help clarify issues. And one of the biggest effects of debates is energy. We just saw one between Biden and Trump here. Yeah. And ironically, it was Biden who called for it, and he actually proposed most of the parameters, and Trump agreed. And as a result of that, Biden's candidacy is under assault. So it is the general tone and tenor of what people take away from it, as well as the visuals.
What about the other minor parties? I mean, should we restrict these debates or the possibility of it to the two major political parties? We have the CPP, the ARC, and the rest. Where do they come in all of this?
I don't think we should restrict it. I think I like the way the Americans do it, that they have parameters. For example, if the polling that they do show that you have, say, 2% support nationally or 1% or whatever, then you belong in the debate. That I think is a very reasonable point. If you are on the ballot in 50 states, you belong in the debate. And debates are very important because if you look at Ross Perot, for example, in 1992 and then in 1996, in 1992, he was in the debates. He got 19%, which is a historic high for a third-party candidate. The following election cycle, he wasn't in the debates, and his support dropped by almost 10%. So being in the debates matter. I think this time around, for example, I would make a case that maybe Alan Chematin belongs in the debates.
Okay, let me go to Dr. Osai Kwapo, and then Ben, you can come in. This morning, I was speaking to Afel Moni, and he was saying that, well, I was quoting what Joyce Bauer, the special aide to former President Mahama, was saying, that the only reason they're refusing this is because they don't see anything unparalleled happening. They would accept to debate if what they are proposing and what the NPP is proposing is something that is up for debate, but really there's nothing to debate. How do you respond to that?
Well, there's always something. There's always something to debate, right? So, for example, let's take John Mahama's idea of the 24-hour, economy. Let's assume that even the NPP was proposing the same thing. Chances are there will be some differences in how they're thinking of it. how they want to, implement it, whatever, right? So even if they were, quote unquote, proposing the same ideas, right? The articulation of it may even be different. The ways they want to go about it may even be different. But here you have two contrasts, between the two candidates, and so why not debate those two contrasts, or even debate those two choices? I mean, they are presenting themselves as this is the way forward for Ghana, I mean, debating even the choice of do we go the NDC direction or do we go the MPP direction, I believe is worthy of a debate. But again, the parties themselves have not been very consistent in their willingness to participate in a debate, which makes it very difficult for to take a position now, right? Like you wanted it in the past, you didn't want it in the present. If you flip it, one wanted it, did not want it in the past, but wants it now. And that inconsistency, I think, makes it very difficult to ask, well, why now? Why do you want it now?
Why now?
Dr. Kwapon, let me stay with you briefly before I go to Dr. Arthur Kennedy on the same point. Having listened to the two foremost candidates, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, John Mahama, let's assume a debate doesn't happen. As of today, of all the things they've said, taking that into context, who has convinced you more ahead of election 2024?
Benjamin, I can't answer.
But you can.
That.
It's a choice. I'm not asking whom are you voting for. I'm asking, as of today, who has convinced you the most or the more? That's all I'm asking.
Yes, but even that implied in my answer would then mean that I have a choice between the two candidates. Look, it is up to. Let me put it this way: I've been writing about these two candidates and the task ahead of them. Right. Tomorrow you would see in Daily Graphic my piece on the assessment of John Mahama's media engagement on Sunday. Okay. In which I give him a number of positives and point out something that I thought he could do differently. Same thing I wrote about Dr. Bawumia during his policy engagement speech, a couple of months ago. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's which of the two candidates do you trust? I think that's one of the things that Ghanaians are looking for. Who do you trust? Who do you believe can actually move the country forward? All of that. But no, for me, it's one of those questions that
I will respect your decision to distance yourself. Hold for me, Dr. Arthur Kennedy. Just hold for me. I'll come to you on that same point. But let me bring in Henry Nanabwache, who is national organizer of the MPP. Nana, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you join the conversation.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm on my way from the Western region to Accra, so if we find some challenges with the network, kindly forgive me.
We can understand. Yes. Thank you for alerting us. The Vice President, your presidential candidate, has called for a debate. It's interesting because the last time the former president spoke to the media, I heard rhetoric from there that, let's have a debate. But the question is, why? Why is he calling for this debate? What is the root thinking behind the debate?
I think that it is very important. First of all, good morning to your viewers and to your listeners. I think that it's very important that we have this debate. The reason is that, first of all, these two gentlemen, that is former President Mahama, he's been vice president before, he's been president before, he's seeking to come back. He's been mentioning some policies, 24-hour economy. I think that they are struggling to get the explanation and the details down to the people. There's been a whole lot of confusion around this policy. We have the sitting vice president, who is also the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party. So I think that, for me, we should not even include any other political party. I mean, just go strictly. I mean, these are the two main political parties, NPP, NDC. And I think they need to lock horns in this particular debate. And because, you see, NDC, they claim that a certain vice president, who is also the chairperson or the chairman for the economic management team, he's taken or he made some decisions, and then they want to blame some of the challenges that we have regarding the economy on him. That is fine.
Right.
That is their own view. I mean, that view can be respected by some people. So why not debate? Let's lock horns. Let's face off. Let's give Ghanaians that show. It is very important.
Maybe a showdown.
You're moving around. You're moving around. Yes. You're moving around. You're talking about 24-hour economy. He's also moving. He's also crisscrossing the country. He talked about the 70 bullet point policy that he intends to bring. You recall the UPSA lecture. So I think that Ghanaians should be looking for this. And I'm very sure that
right.
some reputable and some important organizations like AGI, like the National Union of Ghana Students, like GUTA, TUC, I think they'll be interested. They should create this platform for these two gentlemen. Recently, there was a program organized by CEOs Forum or Summit where His Excellency, the former president, Mr. Mahama, was there.
Right.
And then the current vice president, His Excellency Bawumia, was there. And I think that both of them spoke. And it was interesting how the engagement was. I think they need to engage in this intellectual debate. People are looking up for it. And it is very important. We need to have it. And if you recall, in recent past, we have had or we've seen a debate involving the second president and Mr. Mahama before. We've seen it before. So this is going to be the matter of all elections, if you ask me. This is important. We in the MPP, we are seeking to make sure we go beyond the 8-year, if you want to put it, political cycle. We are seeking to go beyond it. And there's a former president who was a certain president who lost, and then he's seeking to come back. So I think that the debate, and nobody should run away from it. And I entreat the former president not to be swayed off by his handlers. He should prepare and face off with Bawumia.
I just have some brief follow-up questions. Dr. Arthur Kennedy is also with us. He made mention of the fact that, in his opinion, he thinks usually it is the candidate in a weaker position that pushes for the debate, and he thinks Dr. Bawumia is in a weaker position. You would also realize that in 2016, 2020, we've not had those debates. It's 2024. What has changed? Quick responses?
Yes, that is why I'm saying that, yes, in these, if you consider the years you just mentioned, yes, but there were still the same candidates involved, the former President Mahama and the current president, but they have had a debate before. So we've seen it before, right? So these were the two main personalities involved in the elections, and they've had it before. I totally disagree with Mr. Kennedy. I mean, he stayed in the U.S. for quite a long time, and they've had traditional debates. And recently, we witnessed the one between Biden and then Trump. I don't think that it is a weaker candidate that would be calling for a debate. It is rather the person who thinks that I can better explain my policies. You have been making certain assertions. Let's have one common platform. Let's debate. I mean, Mr. Kennedy's assertions are totally unfounded. As I said, he stayed in the U.S. for quite a long time. And the debate is very, very, very conventional there. It's a traditional debate they have all the time. And I think that it's important that we expose the electorate to this kind of debate for us to see. It is very important. So I totally disagree with you.
All right. But if I just came through with this before Sweetie Abochi comes through, if the NDC does not decide to debate on this issue, what will the MPP do?
Oh, I mean,
just as in the past, there were times too when now President Akufo-Addo refused to debate in before he became president. That also happened.
That is why I said that although he refused, he has debated before. And he debated the former president. So at least for Ghanaians, we have seen that debate before. We've seen it, right? So I'm saying that this is a new chapter. These two gentlemen, they've been vice president before, and then they are now presidential candidates of their respective political parties. One was a former president. He's seeking to come back. What are the new things he's coming on board with? What is he proposing? What policy alternatives is he going to champion? It's important. That is why I'm saying that. I mean, for respectfully, for the smaller parties, we can have a different platform for them. But this should be between MPP and NDC. I think Ghanaians would love to have this show, especially in such a heated political period we find ourselves. So anybody, you ask a question, what if the NDC decides not to partake in this debate? That is absolutely up to them. But then Ghanaians will know that they are running away from a debate. Everybody will know that they are running away from the debate.
Was Akufo-Addo running away from the debate when he refused?
But he has debated before.
Mahama has debated before, has he not?
Sorry?
Mahama has debated before, has he not?
He has not debated Bawumia before.
So
he has not
the same questions.
Bawumia before.
Nana Boakye, the same questions you were asking. What are the new policies he's proposing? What is new this time? And although you are hold on a second, I need to get through my question. You are proposing bold solutions for the future, but we haven't actually seen your manifesto, which is essentially a list of the policies and plans that you have, should you get the power, what you plan to enact. So is this not coming a bit too early? Shouldn't you present your manifestos, both parties, before we can actually debate on what you're presenting in your manifestos?
Oh, no. Our flag bearer is not saying that we should debate today or tomorrow or the day after. We can have an appropriate date.
Did you say you're releasing your manifesto today or the day after?
No. Our manifesto is going to come out somewhere next month.
Next month, okay.
Yes, so I mean, if every, or if we have to wait for manifestos to be presented before we have the debate, that is fine. But essentially, what is being proposed is that there should be a debate. As to the time, we can always talk about it. That is fine. I think I can agree with you. We should wait for all political parties' manifestos to come out first. That is fine. That is okay. But essentially, what is being proposed is that there must be a debate. And I think I subscribe to that. And I know, I mean, you can run some polls. I know a lot of Ghanaians, well-meaning Ghanaians, middle class, low class, upper class. Everybody would want to see and witness this debate, including yourself. I think that is very important. I mean, for a huge media station like yourself, I'm sure that you'll be happy to cover this debate. I think you should be championing for it. You should
Henry Nana Boakye, we're grateful for your time, and we wish you the best. You say you're touring the Western region, right?
We're coming from Western region to Greater Accra.
Well,
yes.
We wish you the very best, and do stay safe.
Much.
That is Henry Nana Boakye. He is national organizer of the New Patriotic Party. I know you have some reflections on that, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, but don't forget my initial question before we crossed over. Which of these two gentlemen, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and former President John Dramani Mahama, even if we didn't have a debate, as of today, has impressed you with his or her thinking, rhetoric, ideas, planned policies? Dr. Arthur Kennedy.
Yeah. Let me begin with my brother, Henry Nana Boakye. I think I should excuse him because he didn't hear all my presentation. So I think his judgment was a little premature. But what I said actually still stands, that in general, people who think they need the debate more or are behind press for it more, which is human nature. In 2020, the president didn't think he needed the debate as much. And as for Nana Boakye's point that he has debated Mahama before, elections change. So the fact that you debated somebody 4 years ago doesn't mean that the issues for this election are the same. But we know even that in the MPP primary, some people were calling for debate. And of course, the vice president, who is very eager for debating now, didn't want to debate them. Also, to respectfully correct him on the record in US, debates do not always happen. You know, the first one happened in 1960. Another one didn't happen until 1976. And at that time, consistent with my theory, the president was behind, so he finally agreed to a debate because he thought it would shake up the race. In 1980, the same thing, the president was behind, so he agreed to a debate because he thought it would shake the race. But having said that, I think that debates are useful, but I respectfully disagree with him that it should be just between the MPP and NDC. I think that we should have criteria, and that if there are other parties or independent candidates that meet certain criteria, they should be included. He referred to what the public will want to see. I'm sure that most Ghanaians will want to see Dr. Bawumia, Mr. Mahama, and Mr. Chirmatin debate. If you put it to the vote, a lot of people will want that. And I think that particularly in a year when a lot of people are demoralized because the two old parties have the same solutions, I think it will be a service to the public. Now, to take on your questions, Benjamin, I'm itching to answer it, but I recall, you know, my mother saying that when two men are preparing fufu and you are supposed to eat it and judge, you can't judge the fufu while they are pounding it. So at this stage, I think we should wait for them, as you she rightly pointed out, we don't even know their manifestos. Let's see their manifestos, let's see the debates. But having said that, I think as somebody who helped prepare both Nana Addo and Dr. Bawumia for debates and discuss polling and others with Professor Larry Gibson, if you ask me whose case I would like to prosecute if I was a candidate, I think President Mahama ab initio has a better case. It doesn't mean he will win after you watch the debates and watch the manifestos, but at this time he has a better case. And Alan Chirmatin might have a very interesting case too.
Oh, I see. You know, I've got this message sent personally to me from Eric. He says, please ask the Nabwachi, unfortunately we've let go of him, that when Mahama wanted to debate Bawumia, Bawumia said Mahama should debate the Kayaye, the nurses, the drivers, and those who were suffering under the then economy. Tell them to go and debate their bogus economy. That's the current economy. Okay, so those are some thoughts coming through. Interesting discussion. We have to go in a bit, but Dr. Osai Kwapong, now moving forward, if we did have such a debate, and I'm going to look at two angles as you give your final points. If we did have such a debate, what things should be at the forefront? Yes, we know about the economy, but what else? There are so many issues. There's galamsey, there's corruption, there's the Tema Oil refinery, there's energy, independent power producers. How do we go about it? We've had debates in the past. How do we go about streamlining such a debate to achieve maximal impact rather than just be a talk shop where people come and talk without proving anything?
Yeah, I think let's assume that the two parties or the various candidates agree to a debate. They can, as part of the negotiation of the rules, can decide, okay, the duration, the venue, what topics are we keeping? If there are too many issues, do we have maybe 2 or 3 debates where one debate focuses on the economy, another debate focuses on the social policies, things like that? But these are things that both sides or all participants will have to negotiate and come to some consensus on. For me, though, and I've been saying this since my project had a meeting with representatives of our registered political parties, that the one issue that I believe should be part of this election, which is still not, is the quality of Ghana's democracy, right? I mean, I understand that the economic issues are very important, but if you look at a lot of these governance and democracy indices, you do see some real deterioration in the quality of Ghana's democracy. And I'm still waiting to really hear from the candidates what are some of the ways in which we can stem some of this decline? I mean, if you listen to President Akufo-Addo back in September to his ECOWAS colleagues, he said to them, democracy in West Africa is in danger. If you listen to his Independence Day speech, even though he praised some of the strides that we've made in securing democracy in Ghana, he also pointed out to some of the challenges. One of the things he talked about was the deteriorating nature of our public discourses. And so for me, I'm still waiting for the candidates to articulate how we address some of the deteriorations that we're seeing in governance issues, and particularly the quality of Ghana's democracy.
I guess I would put that as well to Dr. Kobina Arthur Kennedy, and then if you have any final thoughts, we can take them. Doc?
Yeah, I actually would suggest 2 debates between the presidential candidates, and qualifying for those debates will depend on your standing in the polls and the public perceptions. I think sitting here now, I would have 3 people in that debate. I will have former President Mahama, I will have Vice President Bawumia, and then I will have Mr. Chiramatin. I think the 2 debates, one of them, it should be about 90 minutes each. Opening statement, closing statement, 2 minutes to answer a question, 1 minute for rebuttal. And then I think there should be a panel of journalists. That's the first debate. The second one, I think it should be by members of the public asking questions, and you do it one of 2 ways. You ask TUC, etc., to bring people and members of the general public, or you go around and take video questions, and you have a panel screen them, so you put the video on and you let the candidate respond. I also think that there should be a vice presidential debate, one of them, so that vice presidents can question one another or defend one another's boss, and we can see the team as compared to just an individual. So those are the kinds of things that I would bring up. I also think, though, that it is interesting that the president should talk about the deterioration in the quality of our democracy and others. I think basically this is a Freudian confession. He has contributed a lot to the deterioration in the quality of our democracy and our institutions, and it is interesting that he should be concerned about that.
Dr. Arthur Kennedy, so we have to go, gentlemen, but since we're going to do this next, I would just hold you briefly for just about a minute and get your thoughts on it. I'm sure you've heard of, and sweetie, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh and his rhetoric, Samon Mano. There's a statement from him. Would you like to walk us through, sweetie? Yes,
there's a statement from the camp of Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. And before that, I just want to say I agree with Dr. Kennedy's call for vice presidential debates. I think that would be very interesting.
It should be.
Yeah. We should try and set that agenda. Anyway, so the letter is saying that I did not mean to denigrate former President Dr. Kwame Nkrumah or any other president. This is coming from Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. He says, my statement last Tuesday, 9th July in Kumasi on the performance of the President Akufo-Addo has elicited various reactions. The statements reflect my personal opinion about President Akufo-Addo's impact relative to other presidents we've had. I wish to emphasize that I never meant to disrespect our former president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, or any of our former heads of state, including my own grand-uncle and mentor, Mr. John Ajekun Kufuor. I note the concerns raised after my statement. I apologize sincerely and regret any discomfort caused. Thank you.
I am asking myself, I'm scratching my head and asking, has he said anything different from what he said? Because listen to him. He says, the statement reflects my personal opinion about President Akufo-Addo's impact. And he says, I wish to emphasize that I never meant to disrespect him, but I'm comparing him to all former presidents we have had.
So not that I made a mistake, not that that was a slip of tongue, but that it reflects his personal opinion, but he's apologizing.
Dr. Osai-Kwapong, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, this will be the final bit. Your take on this apology. Do we have Dr. Osai Kwapong?
Yes.
Okay.
So for me, it's I'm glad that he's issued the apology because for an event that was meant to outdoor him and sort of shine light on his, his choice as Dr. Bawumia's running mate, that statement ended up being the focus of all post-outdooring conversations, right? That now, we are talking so much about the late president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, to the point where you even think he's on the ballot. And I don't think that is what the NPP wanted to see post that ceremony at Menchia Palace and at Jubilee Park. And so for me, it's good that he's come out to render an apology to those who have taken offense. And hopefully the focus can get back to, to him and his party and why he's the choice for Dr. Bawumia, et cetera, because I think that is what they were hoping to have. But unfortunately, it has been overshadowed by that statement. So hopefully this corrects, or at least helps correct that.
Dr. Arthur Kennedy.
I was disappointed by the apology. The apology did nothing except rub salt into the wounds of those who were offended. Kwame Nkrumah is not Kwame Nkrumah. He's our Kwame Nkrumah. He's Africa's Kwame Nkrumah, Africa's man of the millennium. And I think that a genuinely humble and regretful apology would have been nice. Napo's faux pas is even worse, particularly judging context. Remember, the whole week before he was named, there were people talking about his perceived arrogance. And actually, on Joy FM's news file on Saturday, I said that I was disturbed because the people who were defending him seemed to be giving us the impression that arrogance is a virtue, from some of the comments that they made. And the Asantehene, to his credit, said, I brought you up. People say you are arrogant. I didn't see that, but go out there and prove to them that you are not arrogant. Then a few minutes or hours later, she ended up doing just that. In actual fact, if you were in Kumasi and trying to turn out Ashanti votes, you have been better praising Kufuor than praising Nana Kufuor. And in actual fact, it is without doubt that I can tell you that I think President Kufuor has been the best president of the Fourth Republic, and President Kwame Nkrumah will be our best president for eternity. There is no conceivable scenario in which we'll get a better president. So I think that Napo made an unfortunate start. He needs advice, he needs humility, and he needs to tread carefully going forward.
Thank you so much for having joined the conversation, Dr. Kobina Arthur Kennedy. He's a physician and political activist. We also have Dr. John Osai Kwapong, a CDD fellow. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation.
A part of me was wishing to hear him say these words rather than read it on a piece of paper.
Well, Dr. Arthur Kennedy reflected my thoughts. I read it and I was wondering what was happening. But there it is, his apology.
Yeah.